The camera lingers on his face, weathered, still, half in shadow. Andrew Parker Bowles doesn't flinch, doesn't blink, just stares into the past. A fireplace flickers. He speaks, voice low, but firm. Andrew quietly, I let Camilla become queen, but that doesn't mean she earned it. Narrator Vio, this isn't a tabloid scandal. It's not gossip. This is a verdict, a reckoning. Delivered not in anger but in truth. Cut to black and white photos, weddings, smiles, children. Then to Camilla on coronation day waving from the balcony, crown glinting under a gray sky. Narrator Vio, for decades, he stayed silent, while she rose, while the world forgot the man she left behind. But silence always has a cost. Back to Andrew. His eyes don't move, just one final sentence. Heavy, inevitable. Andrew Vio, Camilla didn't lose me to Charles. She chose the crown over her own family. Narrator Vio, we were told it was a love that defied time. A bond too strong for duty to destroy. Charles and Camilla, the couple who waited decades for their fairy tale ending. She, the devoted companion. He, the prince torn from his soulmate by royal pressure. And now they reign side by side, as king and queen consort. Cut to clips from The Crown, tender scenes, voiceovers romanticizing their reunion. Narrator Vio, that's the version we were sold. The polished, royal-approved story that glossed over the wreckage they left behind. Because behind every forbidden love, there's a price. Shift. A wedding photo of Camilla and Andrew. Young, happy, faded. Narrator Vio, while the camera's obsessed over Charles, another man was vanishing quietly from the frame. A soldier, a husband, a father. Andrew Parker Bowles. Camilla's first love, her once loyal partner, the man she left, and the man no one ever asked about. Cut to still images. Andrew with young Tom and Laura. Private family moments. Quiet smiles. Narrator Vio, their marriage wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a placeholder. It was real and it mattered. Until it didn't. Until love collided with ambition. And Andrew became collateral damage in someone else's destiny. Quick montage. Coronation day. Camilla crowned. Camera flashes. Royal smiles. Narrator Vio, now, as Camilla rises to the highest seat in the land, Andrew breaks his silence. Not out of bitterness but out of necessity, because history as it stands is being rewritten, cleaned up, sanitized. Flash. Tabloid headlines from the 90s, affairs, rumors, scandals. Then fade back to present-day quiet. Narrator Vio, he watched the world fall in love with a myth while the truth, the human cost, was buried. A photo of young Laura and Tom Bowles. Then present day, distant from the crown. Narrator Vio, this isn't just about a marriage. It's about children who were dragged through whispers, a family fractured in silence, and a man who, for decades, carried it all alone. Cut to Andrew again, the same fireplace, his eyes fixed, unblinking. Narrator Vio, now he speaks. Because he believes the story told to millions left out the most important part, what it cost to make Camilla queen. Narrator Vio, before the scandal, before the crown, there was just Camilla and Andrew, the golden couple of Gloucestershire. Cut to photographs. Andrew in uniform, Camilla laughing at his side. Glossy spreads in Tatler, horseback shots, lavish smiles. Narrator Vio, they were aristocracy's answer to celebrity. He the dashing officer from a proud military line. She the flirtatious darling of the countryside with smoky eyes and a laugh that made men lean in. Together, they were magnetic, adored, admired. On paper, perfect. Pan across images from polo matches. Andrew shaking hands with royals. Camilla in wide-brimmed hats, watching from the sidelines. Narrator Vio, their courtship was one of champagne afternoons and candlelit dinners. The envy of every debutante. But even then, one shadow always lingered. Charles. Flash to a grainy photo, Camilla and Prince Charles together at a polo match, long before Diana. Narrator Vio, before there was the affair. There was something, a brief romance between Camilla and the young Prince of Wales, cut short by royal protocol and timing. But it never truly ended. Shift. 1973. Black and white wedding footage. Camilla in lace, Andrew in military dress. Narrator Vio, when Camilla married Andrew in 1973, it was the wedding of the year, a joining of dynasties, a seal on tradition. 2 children followed, Tom and Laura, a country estate, royal godparents, everything a young aristocratic couple could want. Pause. The music slows, softer now. Narrator Vio, but something was missing. Andrew was loyal, but often away. Army life demanded it. Camilla, meanwhile, was restless. Domestic life suited her on the outside, but inside, something stirred. Ambition, longing, and perhaps unfinished business. Faded letters, a phone cord, silent glances. Narrator VO Charles was never far, not from her thoughts, not from her reach, and slowly what began as a solid marriage began to fracture, not with a bang, but with a silence, a soft unraveling behind country manor walls. Montage. Camilla alone at social functions. Andrew pictured abroad. Narrator VO The world saw a perfect family. But inside the Bowles household, there were fractures no one wanted to admit. Not yet. Because love can start real and still fade into something unrecognizable. Narrator VO It began in whispers. Phone calls late at night. Trips into London that ended too late. Excuses that didn't quite hold together. Camilla was drifting not away from Andrew, but back towards someone she never truly left. Archival footage. Prince Charles at royal engagements in the early 1980s. Narrator VO Charles. The old flame, never quite extinguished. Their affair, once brief and buried in the past, flickered back to life. Quiet at first, then bolder, riskier. Cut to Andrew at home, eating dinner alone. The other seat, empty. Narrator VO Andrew knew something was wrong. A missed kiss, a forgotten birthday, an empty seat at the table more nights than not. But he didn't ask, not yet, because the truth was harder to face than the silence. Still image, young Laura Parker Bowles, sitting on a window ledge, eyes fixed outside. Narrator VO Laura would sit by the window for hours, waiting for her mother to come home. Camilla didn't, not that night, not the next. And slowly, the house began to feel hollow, not empty, just unloved. Cut to Tom Parker Bowles, aged around 12, searching drawers, finding a letter. Narrator VO Then Tom found the letter, tucked into one of Camilla's handbags. It wasn't about love or longing, it was about strategy. Charles writing of the press, of how they could turn perception, of how Camilla would need to appear charitable, nurturing publicly, indispensable. Tom stares at the letter, his hands shake. Narrator VO To a boy barely in his teens, it made no sense. Until it did. Dramatic pause. Then, confrontation scene in the kitchen. Tom angry, hurt. You're not even here. And when you are, you're pretending. Camilla doesn't raise her voice. She just turns, coldly resigned. Camilla, you wouldn't understand. This is bigger than us. Narrator VO Bigger than them. Bigger than the children who carried the weight of her choices. Bigger than the husband whose name she still wore for now. Montage. Charity galas. Photo ops. Laura in a dress. Beside Camilla, posing. Flashbulbs pop. Narrator VO Camilla didn't just hide the affair. She began shaping it, bringing Laura to charity galas not as a daughter, but as a prop. A picture-perfect mother for the cameras. A future queen. Rehearsing her lines. Friends whisper over champagne. Voice VO She wasn't attending those events. She was auditioning for the throne. Back to Andrew. Late night, sitting alone, staring at an untouched drink. Narrator VO And Andrew. He faced a war of his own. Hold the family together, protect the illusion, or confront the truth, and lose everything. He picks up the phone, hesitates, puts it down again. Narrator VO Each time he tried to speak, he stopped. Because if he said it out loud, it would be real. Flash. A family dinner. Silent. Camilla on the phone. Stepping out. Laura picking at food. Tom staring into nothing. Narrator VO The house wasn't a home anymore. It was a stage. And the family inside? Just props for a crown not yet worn. Cut to Andrew, walking through the countryside alone. Wind blowing across empty fields. Narrator VO He wasn't just losing his wife. He was losing his children, his identity, his place in the world. That once praised them as perfect. Narrator VO And still he said nothing. He carried the shame, the rejection, the slow death of a marriage that had become a sideshow to someone else's coronation. Camera fades on a quiet shot of the Bowles family photo, everyone smiling, but distant. Narrator VO The world would soon know. The headlines were coming, but long before the scandal broke, this family had already fallen. Narrator VO It was a meeting wrapped in memory. Old friends, old lovers, no royal titles, no uniforms, just two people, with too much history between them. Anne sips her drink, calm, but her eyes are sharp. She's not here for pleasantries, princess. Anne measured. She's not just chasing love, Andrew. She wants the crown, and she's using you all to get it. Andrew flinches but laughs it off, thinly. Andrew, she wouldn't do that. Not to the children, not to me. Princess Anne quietly. She already has. A beat. The fire cracks. Andrew stares into the amber glow. Narrator Vio, he wanted to believe Camilla was still the woman he married, the mother of his children, the girl he once chased across dance floors, but Anne's words landed harder than he'd admit, because deep down, part of him already knew. Montage. Camilla in evening gowns, flashbulbs, royal events, Charles nearby, whispers swirl in society circles. Narrator Vio, by the early 90s, the affair wasn't a rumor, it was an open secret. Camilla no longer hid. She didn't need to, because the palace wasn't just tolerating her, it was slowly absorbing her. Then January 1993, Camillagate, static. A grainy audio tape plays. Charles's voice. I want to be reincarnated as your tampon. Narrator Vio, the world stopped. A private call between Charles and Camilla leaked. Explicit, intimate, crude and clumsy, but undeniable. Cut to Diana, stepping out of a car, her face unreadable. Reporters shouting questions. Narrator Vio. Diana was humiliated. The monarchy trembled. And Andrew? He disappeared from public view, because in the firestorm that followed, he wasn't a name, he was a wound. Scene. Andrew alone in a living room, curtains drawn. He watches the news in silence. The audio crackles. News. Anchor Vio leaked recordings between Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles. The camera pushes in on Andrew. He doesn't blink. He doesn't move. Just listens. Narrator Vio, this wasn't heartbreak. It was humiliation, public and complete. Not just for him but for Tom. For Laura. For a family now torn apart for the world's entertainment. Cut to Tom at boarding school, surrounded by whispers. Laura refusing to come down for breakfast. Narrator Vio, Tom buried himself in school. Laura turned inward, and Andrew finally stopped defending what was already gone. Scene. Divorce papers on a wooden table. Andrew signs them alone. No Camilla, no ceremony. Narrator Vio, their divorce was quiet. No headlines, no statements, just ink and silence. Cut to a phone call between Camilla and her PR team. She's focused, detached. Laura walks past in the hallway unseen. Narrator Vio, Camilla was already in strategy mode. Damage control, reputation repair. One scandal away from banishment or coronation. Andrew tries to call Tom. No answer. Leaves a message. The line goes dead. Narrator Vio, the house was empty now. Not just of people but of warmth, of laughter, of meaning. Back to the tapes. Andrew rewinds them, plays them again, not to punish himself but to remind himself it was real. Narrator Vio, he needed to hear it. To hear the voice of the woman who once promised forever, whispering devotion to another man, in the most grotesque, undeniable way. That was the final nail. Not the affair, not the lies, but the sound of her voice, becoming someone else's. Cut. Back to the pub in Gloucestershire. Empty now. Just the fireplace. Just the echo of Anne's warning. Princess Anne Vio, she wants the crown, Andrew. Narrator Vio, and now, he knew she would get it, but not without taking something sacred with her. Final image. Andrew walking out into the rain. No umbrella. Just silence. Just the sound of footsteps and a storm no longer avoidable. Narrator Vio, it finally happened. Camilla, once the most hated woman in Britain, crowned queen. A moment decades in the making. A story scrubbed, softened, and served back to the public with gold edges. Footage. Royal wave. Front pages reading Queen Camilla. The people's forgiveness. Narrator Vio, the palace called it a triumph. The media called it redemption. But for some, it wasn't a celebration. It was a funeral for the truth. Cut to a quiet home in Wiltshire. Andrew Parker Bowles alone in a chair, watching the coronation on TV. He doesn't react, just watches. Narrator Vio, no invitation, no acknowledgement, not even a footnote in the official program. Andrew, the man who gave Camilla her first crown, as his wife now erased from the record. Montage. Camilla and Charles in royal robes. Then, flicker in contrast black and white photos of Andrew with young Tom and Laura. Narrator Vio, he never remarried. He never gave interviews. He never sought sympathy. But the silence was never peace. It was exile. Cut to Laura and Tom, now adults, distant from the palace. Always polite, never present. Narrator Vio, their relationship with their mother? Not broken, not whole, just unfinished. Years of questions unasked, answers that never came. Back to 2025. Andrew shuts off the television. The screen goes black. He stares ahead and decides. Narrator Vio, that was the day something shifted. Not in Camilla but in Andrew. For 30 years, he gave them silence. Now, he would give them the truth. Scene: a palace emissary arrives, sharp suit, tight smile. Sir Langley, an old friend turned messenger. Sir Langley measured. There's no need to dig up the past. We'd prefer discretion. He slides over a folded document. A veiled offer, Sir Langley quietly. You'll be taken care of, generously. Andrew doesn't touch it. Andrew even. I gave you 30 years of silence. I won't give you the truth too. Scene: a quiet studio, a single camera. Andrew seated. No flash, no fanfare, just words. Narrator Vio, and then the silence broke. The interview aired. No theatrics, just the facts. The affair, the betrayal, the children's pain. How Camilla rehearsed her way to the throne and who paid the price along the way. Clips go viral. TikToks, threads, duets, hashtags. Hashtag Andrew speaks the Earl Camilla. Narrator Vio. Social media exploded. Not because his story was new but because no one had dared say it out loud. Camilla's team scrambles press releases. Sources close to the Queen, calls to friends and media. Narrator Vio. The palace went into damage control. Outdated, misremembered, a private matter. But it was too late. A viral comment flashes on screen. She may wear the crown, but he told the story. Narrator Vio. In a world ruled by narrative, Andrew had done the unthinkable. He didn't reclaim his place. He didn't demand revenge. He just spoke. Final shot: Andrew walking through a frost-covered field. Alone. No camera crew. Just the crunch of footsteps. Narrator Vio. The crown Camilla chased is now hers, but the myth? It's been pierced. And no matter how polished the palace version becomes, somewhere beneath it all the truth remains. Narrator Vio. No audience, no titles, no gold carriage or balcony wave, just a man alone in the stillness of truth. The crown sits elsewhere, but the cost was his to bear. Fade. Slow pan across the room. The fire burns low. His hand rests on a closed journal. A life that's spoken and finally heard. Narrator Vio. This isn't just about one woman or one throne. It's about what ambition demands and who is left behind when the cameras roll, because fairy tales don't erase families. And love, no matter how forbidden, always has a ripple effect. Montage: young Laura by the window, Tom reading the letter, Andrew in uniform, Camilla on the palace steps. Narrator Vio. For every coronation, there is a quiet exit. For every royal title, a name forgotten. For every queen, someone who had to disappear to make room. Soft music builds. Slow zoom out from Andrew's study, pulling us away. Narrator Vio. So we ask, can love truly survive when power becomes the goal? What happens when a woman's ambition must be cloaked in sacrifice and the world rewards her only when she stops being someone's wife, someone's mother, and starts becoming someone else entirely? Cut to Camilla on coronation day. She smiles, waves, but the camera doesn't linger. It moves past her, upward, into the clouds. Narrator Vio. Was Camilla the victim of royal cruelty or its most skilled player? Did she endure the machine or master it? And can any woman rise inside a system built on obedience, tradition, and silence, without giving up something sacred in return? Return to Andrew. He closes the journal, looks out the window. The wind rustles through the trees. Narrator Vio. History may crown the victors, but it rarely honors the casualties. A long beat. The screen fades to black. Narrator Vio. Not every price is paid in blood.